So this is Jon Gabriel, and welcome to the Gabriel Method Holistic Webinar Weight Loss Series. It's a four-part series. So today's webinar is called How to Lose 1 Pound 100 Times, and I'm very pleased to be joined by my good friend and colleague Nealon Hightower. And Nealon's the author of an excellent book called 6 Simple Truths to Fat Release. He's also a certified Gabriel Method coach. And, Neal, like a lot of us, spent the majority of his life struggling with weight until he came to a more holistic place where he was able to release the weight by addressing the real issues. And he went on to lose 100 pounds several years ago. He's kept it off over the last, I don't know, it's got to be 5 or 6 years now. And to me personally, I think he's a very, very inspiring person, very knowledgeable. Part of the way he lost the weight was including the Gabriel Method principles, and which he now teaches to his clients and to people that are looking for assistance. Neal, it's a pleasure to have you. Thanks very much for coming.
Thanks, no problem. I love being here.
Great. So Neal, before we get started, I just want to ask you, what are some of the big things that you're focusing on this year in terms of your health, like 1 or 2 type of things?
Well, I would say in one sentence, John, more live foods. That's what I'm looking to add
More live
this
foods.
year. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
I think it's the biggest thing that any of us can do to improve our health is just get more of those live foods in. And one of the things that I'm really starting to appreciate that I've learned from you and from a lot of other people is that you can't always eat all of those. It's hard to get the kind of nutrients that your body can take in, and so I'm starting to juice now, and really loving that.
Well, I'm getting more and more into live foods too, and I just did a video blog in the support group about a restaurant that I found here that had something really clever, which was a chia wrap. That is a wrap made out of chia seeds, dehydrated chia seeds, ground up, and it had a couple of herbs and spices. And I thought that was great because people are always asking, most people know that for me personally, I'm always bad-mouthing grains because they elevate your insulin levels, they cause digestion problems, they activate your fat programs in so many different ways, and so I'm always looking for alternatives. People say, what do you do for bread? What do you do for wraps? And there's not that many good answers, but this chia wrap I'm really excited about because it's you can wrap up your favorite. You can take salmon and salad or eggs in the morning with some chili sauce and avocado and sprouts. You can wrap it up in a chia wrap, which is dehydrated. So remember, chia seeds have really good omega-3 fatty acids, and you can wrap it up in this thing where the omega-3s are not destroyed because it's been dehydrated, and it's got 0 grains. It's probably the best thing you can put in your body, and yet it tastes like a wrap. So to me, it's the ultimate win-win scenario. And what we're always trying to do is create more of exactly that, the win-win scenario of having something taste delicious, maybe even better than the conventional thing, but have it be really, really healthy. So raw foods are definitely a good way to go, and I'm discovering them more and more. So I definitely agree with you on that one.
Yeah, I mean, and I tell clients of mine, if you don't believe me, try it for a day or 2. Just try it, and wow, I mean, it will feel like, you just have so much energy. You're just so alive. We're getting those live foods in, bringing that live energy in. It's like your body will heal itself if you can give it the proper ingredients it needs to do that.
Well, I had an example of this also over the summer. I was in Bali for about a month and a half working with a client, and we were up in the mountains and staying in a villa, and it was kind of an exciting event. We were doing visualizations every morning and evening, and doing detoxification, all this type of stuff. But what I used to do is every couple of days I'd go into town. And Bali, Ubud, anyway, is like the capital of raw foods. So they've got all these different raw food restaurants and takeaways. And I used to go into town every 2 days and just load up on raw food wraps and snacks and flax crackers and chia crackers and even raw chocolates. And that's what I lived on for a month and a half. And, maintaining my weight is pretty effortless anyway, but this was just like I was just like no effort whatsoever to maintain my weight. And I just think that it's because your body really does understand real food. All the manufactured foods that we have cause a lot of hormonal problems in our body, and our bodies just don't understand them. So let me Let me ask you some questions just to get started, and we'll come back to your any chat questions. So, Jenny, if you have any questions you want to that people are chatting in, anytime, just chime in and let me know. But I just want to get into some of the things that that you're asking. Like you say that one of the big things I know in your own weight loss program and in the book that you wrote is that words have power. They have power to manifest change. And I'm wondering if you could just talk a little bit about that.
Well, absolutely. I mean, the whole thing is, my dad always used to tell me things are always created twice, once in your mind and once in reality. You have to think this stuff up before you can bring it about. From what you think about, you bring about. So, I really encourage people to think about the words. Be consciously aware of the words that you're not only saying to other people, but the words that are going on in your head. I used to tell myself, losing weight is hard. I used to tell myself, oh, but you don't understand, I get so hungry. I used to tell myself all these things until one by one, I started catching these different statements and saying, is this really what I want to be saying? Are these really the words that, it's not even whether they're true or not, or my whole family is overweight. You don't understand, my whole family is overweight. It's like I'm trying to build a case for why I'm overweight and, why I was overweight. So when you start looking at those words, you realize you can start choosing different words that are also true, and I realized that it could be an easy process.
Well, I know you talk about like how for example, one word you don't like to use the words lose weight or weight loss. You more like the ideas of releasing weight or letting go of weight.
That's right. I'm on a mission here, John, to get the world to stop saying weight loss. One day I'll get you to do it too. But
it's not good. To me, weight loss. I'll tell you what. When I wrote my book, I decided I was going to coin the term weight loss as one word. And to me, as one word, it has always been a positive. It's never been like a negative connotation. But I understand the theory of what you're saying, that like this loss, this got this sort of negative connotation to it.
Right. So the idea is, if you look up in the Webster's dictionary, there's I think 23 definitions of the word lose, and they're all, with the exception of losing weight, they're all things you want nothing to do with. It's like I tell people, you can lose your keys, you can lose your job, you can lose your money, you can lose your dog, but you don't want to lose your weight. You want to let it go, and that's a whole different thing. It's a process of empowerment, not a process of force or overcoming resistance or things like that.
Yeah. So, well, I'm just sort of curious. Like, I just want to talk about your experience a little bit. So, I mean, was that like what was the real turning point for you? I mean, was that an important thing? Was for you to kind of reposition language and words and to realize that words have power and that your mind has power? What got you to the point where you were able to turn around? Because I know you were struggling for years.
I was struggling. I mean, my entire life I'd struggled with my weight, but see, for me, I'd always been an entrepreneur ever since I was a teenager, and so I'd always had success there. I always had success somewhere that I could always lean back on that and say, well, I'm doing okay here. So I remember thinking at one point, well, maybe I'm just not meant to have success in this arena of my health and my weight. And so I would put more of my effort and energy into my secular work, and I would do even better with it. And so, I would have these other things, and I would say, well, that's just me. Again, so this is my story. This is my identity. This is who I am. I'm a 330-pound guy who, I didn't want to get any heavier, but I figured if I could maybe just stay at that weight, not go any further. And so what happened to me is I had sleep apnea, like I know that you did. I also had fatty liver disease. My liver enzymes were off the charts, and my business went bankrupt. I was a builder here in the United States. And we hit the worst housing market ever, and couldn't do it anymore. And so now I didn't even have that to lean back on. And so it really kind of made me stop and look at my life and look at my priorities. And not to mention, I had 2 little children at home. I had a 2.5-year-old and a 4-week-old. And I know these kids needed me, and I know that I wasn't going to be there. And, my parents weren't the healthiest people in the world. And I always remember thinking, I wanted to do better than they did, at least in that arena. I mean, they loved me. They were good parents. I'm not trying to say anything bad about them, but I wanted to be able to give my kids something more than that. And I looked at myself and I said, but I'm not doing it, And so that was my turning point where I realized that I had to do something better than that.
You as I'm listening to your story, you and I had a lot of similarities. Obviously, I had horrible sleep apnea, and I got to this point when I was over 400 pounds, exactly what you're just saying, where I said, I just don't want to gain any more weight, because I've been struggling and struggling and struggling. And I know you talk about, and this is a big concept for us too, you talk about the biggest breakthrough is letting go of resistance. I'm wondering if you can tell me what you mean by that, because to me, I think that's a very powerful statement.
Look, John, anything that you fight is going to fight you back. It's a physical law. Anything you push up against is going to push back against you. What you resist persists. Anything that you go up against and push, you look at Republicans and Democrats here in the States, you look at anything like that. Whenever you have two forces coming up against each other, you're going to have that resistance, and good things don't happen inside of that resistance.
I just, Eckhart Tolle, the author of The Power of Now and New Worth, he talks about anytime you say the war on anything, the war, if you look at the war on drugs, the war on terror, the war on childhood obesity, whatever it is, as soon as you look at it as a war, then it just gets stronger and stronger. It never goes away, right? The terror doesn't go away, the drugs don't go away. Nothing goes away when it becomes a war.
Well, and I remember, you can't beat your body at this war.
Right. That's right. You cannot you can't go to war with you can go to war with your body, but your body's going to win because your body's going to fight. You can fight your body, but your body's going to fight back 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So you could never ever win in that fight. And even Chris Carr from Crazy Sexy Cancer. Mm-hmm, yep. She talks about that exact same thing where she was going to war with her cancer, and then she kind of came to this place where she said, I'm not going to go to war anymore. That I accept you. She actually said, this is a lady with stage 4 cancer all over her body. Mm-hmm. She actually said, I accept you in my body. I allow you to be in my body. Let us coexist. And that was the turning point. And you and I, as I'm listening to you, came to the same place where we said to our weight, I accept you.
That's it.
I said that when I was 400 pounds. I said, I accept you. And
it's counterintuitive. It's counterintuitive to everything that we're taught growing up and being raised. In many cultures, anyway, it's counterintuitive. But I'm telling you, it's the way. It's the way. When you can allow it to be there, that's how you can release it and let it go. And that is the difference between lose and release to me, right there.
Okay. All right. Well, let's talk about another counterintuitive principle, which is the adding principle, which I know you talk about and I talk about a lot. So most times when you look at weight as a struggle and you look at the war on weight, the obvious answer with your in struggle, war, resist mentality is less, right? Less food, less fat, less carbs, whatever it is, less, and then you go to war. Now you and I both discovered this thing independently that the answer was number one, to accept and to release the resistance, but then to start adding. And to me, that's the biggest counterintuitive principle in weight loss that you could possibly have, is this idea of adding nutrients or adding even food in the beginning in order to get your body to lose weight. Obviously, you're not going to lose 50 pounds in 50 days by adding in day one, but you will start to solve some of the problems. So let's talk about some of the things that some of the benefits of adding.
Well, sure, and you also have to realize everybody's starting off at a different place. Where I was starting off with was at the bottom of, I was on the ground. I was down and I was out, and I didn't want to hear about a diet. I didn't want to hear about going to the gym. I didn't want to hear about all the lovely, healthy things that I may do now. I didn't want to hear about them then. Yeah. And so I had to look at this as, what could I do? Because I couldn't do that, so what could I do? And what I could do was add one thing at a time. That's what I could do. And so that's exactly what I did. I just so resonate with your story, Neil, because as you're talking about it, I'm remembering the way I was, and the description I always talk about is like I was on a treadmill that was going too fast with no way to get off. That's the way my life felt. So the last thing you want to do is work harder, which is what everybody tells you. You're already carrying around 100 extra pounds, 200 extra pounds, 50 pounds even is enormous to carry. Try picking up 50 pounds one day and walking around with it for 2 minutes. Yeah, John, I'll tell you what. I wear weight vests now when I exercise. Sometimes I wear a weight vest. They make them. Try putting on a 200-pound weight vest. Try it. They make them. And let me see you walk up a flight of stairs. That's
what I'm saying.
An incredible
exactly. So the last thing you want. Right. So the last thing you want is some bone-thin doctor that's never had a weight problem, or some exercise guy who took a weekend class in sports physiology to tell you to start working out more and eating less. it's just meaningless information. It's like if you look at that treadmill example, you're on that treadmill, and it's like the doctor saying, well, just run faster. Well, no, I can't run faster.
Right.
And I can't carry around this 200 pounds and do anything more. So, so adding is something
you've got to put your focus on what you can do, not
exactly.
what you can't do. And so those people are putting their focus on something that you don't feel you can do. Your power is not there, John. Your power is in what you can do. However simple or small it may be, that's where your power lies. That's what you have to stick with.
So let's talk about what you can do. So let's talk, because there are people listening. Look, we've got 1,000 people on this call and 2,000 people that are online for the next call. That's how many people want to talk to us on this issue, okay? So we've got people in there, hundreds of people in there, that are in this exact situation. So my question to you is, what can we start adding?
Well, for me, the first thing was water, because I can tell you this, I was drinking too much Diet Cola, I was drinking too much beer, I was drinking too much of anything other than water, and so I was walking around in a constant state of dehydration. And again, from there, it was hard for anything else to work properly. I wasn't getting hydrated. This is a very basic principle. You got to stay hydrated. That was the first thing I added.
People don't understand that, and what I've found also, and what studies have shown, is that dehydration manifests itself as hunger, not thirst, most of the time.
Oh yeah.
So and it manifests as hunger for sweets.
Yep.
So and then the sweets make you even more dehydrated, or salty food makes you. It manifests as hunger for salty food. That makes you even more dehydrated,
and
so you get into this chronic state.
And there's reasons for all of that stuff, but the reasons aren't what's important. What's important is to realize is if you stay hydrated, you're going to knock out 30 or 40% of that hunger that's killing you. You know, that's making you want to go eat all these things.
You're also going to increase your energy. And your clarity. You're going to reduce the stress in your body, and as we all know, if anybody that's studied the Gabriel Method principles all knows that stress causes weight gain. So you're going to have a less stressful system. So how much water should we add? So somebody's going to listen to this webinar right now. They're going to wake up tomorrow. What are they going to do?
Well, you know what I tell people. I'll give you one tip right out of the gate. Keep a 16-ounce glass of water right next to your bed, right on your nightstand, and hit that the second you get up. I mean, you're ahead of the game if you do that. If you did nothing other than that for the rest of your life, and you got that off of this webinar, you're a winner. You got something.
Absolutely. I actually do. I have 4 glasses of water the second I get up. That's what I do. As soon as I get up, before I do, I have a meditation that I do first thing in the morning, visualization. First thing I do is I drink 4 glasses of water. So I agree with that. And you also talk about obviously adding healthy things like fruits and vegetables and live food and things like that.
Exactly. Yep.
Yeah. Okay. So all right. So then once we start adding, like what else? You obviously you had to deal with your CPAP, your sleep apnea. So what did you do? What type of adding things can we do other than nutrient type of things to help us get started? Like for me, adding a CPAP machine was essential.
That had been great. I didn't have health insurance to do that. I told you I was bankrupt and I was broke. I couldn't even make my mortgage payment. So that was just something I had to work through on my own, and it did go away after I got down to about 270. I started off at 325, I guess. I got down to 270. It just went away overnight. Just went away.
Wow.
And but the other things I added, I mean, I knew that if I had done whatever I had done in the past, and I tried every diet, I tried everything that anybody else there has ever tried. I knew if I had tried any of those things, it was going to most likely end the same way that it ended every other 1,000th time I've tried it, which was failure. Yeah. So I knew that I had to, whatever I did this time, I had to do it different, or it wasn't going to work. Okay. And so I added slowly.
Good. All right, so I just want to make a note. So we've got about 4 moderators on the call right now, and we've got hundreds of questions that have come in. So I'm just going to invite any of the moderators that are on that want to chime in at any time with anything that they want to share, so we can start talking to some of the audience. So anytime you want to chime in, do so. And in the meantime, I want to get to the next point that you talk about, which is transforming your body from the inside out, which I think is an excellent concept. So tell me what you mean by that.
Well, what I mean is that you have to start on the inside. You have to start, there's a mind and there's a body. Think of it as 2 levers that can go up and down. And what diets and exercise and all that all focuses on the body, all the physical things, the scientific physical things we need to do. The other side is all the emotional stuff, all the stuff that's going on in your mind. And that's what most diets neglect. is that emotional stuff. And until you can move that emotional lever up, it doesn't matter how high you move the physical one, it's going to spring right back down to where the other one is. You have to move them both up little by little.
That's exactly what I've found. If there's either an emotional component and a stress component, then either that emotional component or the stress component has to be addressed. And I'll take it a step further and say that there's always an emotional component or a stress component, especially if you've had either a lifetime of weight issues, or you've had over 50 pounds that you want to lose, or you can track your weight problem to a specific time or event, when you moved, when there was a divorce, when there was an accident, when you lost your job, when you were abused, whatever those things are, those are emotional components, and they are going to create kind of like a set point. So what happens is you try to start losing weight through restrictive dieting, and you lose 5 or 10 pounds, and then somebody says, oh, you look great, and you freak out. And the reason you freak out is because your body is using weight as a form of protection anyway, and so it freaks out, and you end up gaining that weight back.
So no matter how far you push that lever on the physical side, if you didn't move the emotional one, it just springs right back down to it. It's going to happen every time. But the thing is that emotional component for us, as the human being experiencing the thing, isn't always very easy to spot. But that's one of the beauty of having a coach, of working with somebody else who's gone through it, is quite often they can see it just like that, and we cannot.
Yeah, well, there's always that blind side, and I've even worked with psychiatrists and psychologists that have weight problems. And look, if anybody's going to know how to, fix their emotional problems, it's a psychiatrist, a psychologist. But the thing is that when it's our problem, we're always going to have a blind spot. And anytime I talk to someone who's got a weight issue and they go, "Oh, I did the emotional thing already," and first thing I'm thinking is, you didn't do the emotional thing already. You worked on the emotions, but that doesn't mean that you did the emotional thing. And obviously, there's still an issue. So when I work with someone, I make sure that emotional issue gets taken care of. So what did you do, with your own? Obviously, you like I had a similar situation. Was I had a lot of stress coming in. What did you do to deal with your emotional and stress related issues?
Well, I mean, it started with a lot of little things. I started taking, just at the beginning, just 2 minutes a day to quiet my mind and meditate. Just that one act right there helped a lot. I started writing down some better statements. We were talking about those statements that didn't work for you. I started writing down some more empowering statements. I recorded them. I played them back to myself, some healthy affirmations. I listened to those every day. So I'm getting this positive stuff coming in, not all this negative stuff. And I started working on how I was thinking. If you can start changing the way that you think, then you'll start changing the way that you communicate, and then your body will follow suit. Your body will always follow your mind.
Right.
So if
you talk about
So you start in the mind and start working on that, the body will always follow. So that's why I say it's working from the inside out. When I say the inside, I mean working on your mind, working on your heart, working on the inside stuff, the body will follow.
Right. Well, I couldn't agree more. So, and you talk about, like, the story that you tell yourself. What's the story that you tell yourself about your job or because you're right in a sense that it's always the story that's going to cause stress. The story may not always be right, but the story is always causing you an issue. What he did to me, what she did to me. What do you do about that, and why does that cause a problem?
Hold on, we got a question coming in here, John. You mind if we take a break for 1 second?
Yeah, sure. And you can. And before we do, I just want to say to Jenny and to Lucas and to Cherie and to Shannon, actually talk in. Come on in and talk in and tell me what the questions are. So let's do it that way. I want to hear from everybody. So chime in and just interrupt us. Go ahead. What's the question? Neil, are you there?
I'm here, yeah.
Yeah, go ahead. Neil?
Yeah, they don't have, Aaron's got it.
Okay. What's the question?
There's one here, John, from Lucy, who is asking, if you recognize there is an emotional issue, what can you suggest to help release that?
Right. Okay, so that's a great question. Thank you, Shannon, very much. Also, Shannon, if you can make your mic just a little bit louder. Also, I'm inviting Jenny and Lucas and Cherie. If you want to bring questions in, please do. Shannon, that's an excellent question. So the question is, if you have emotional issues, what do you do about it? Now, the answer to this question is something that we've been working on and refining for years and years and years at the Gabriel Method. So one of the things we do is visualization. Visualization is a great way to get your mind and body to work together, certainly to reduce stress, and studies have shown that meditation and visualization, like both Neil and I have done, lowers your cortisol levels, and which is your stress hormone. And many studies have shown that Olympic athletes, politicians, super successful people, they've been successful. They attribute a lot of their success to visualization. So visualization is a great way to get your mind and body to work together, but also to break through emotional issues. So we've got lots of different visualizations for breaking through emotional issues. Then if need be, if it's a real issue like that, you can like a trauma, like an abuse or something like that, then what you want to do is you want to work with a professional like our emotional release specialists. Or the biggest thing is what we've been doing, with this coaching program that we're refining, this latest coaching program. We're going to have people like Neil that you're going to be working with to help you identify what your emotional issues are, and then once you've identified your emotional issues, they're going to point you in the right direction toward our team of psychologists, neuro-linguistic programmers, stress relief counselors. So they're going to point you in the right direction to get you the help that you need. So that's really what the whole reason why we've put together this ultimate coaching package is, to give everybody all the tools that they need. So, for example, the next webinar we're going to be talking to, or one of the webinars coming up, we're going to be talking to the nutritionist, Heather Fleming, and it could be a digestion issue. So what do you do about that? She's going to help with that. So the emotional issue is something that you cannot possibly get too much support. You need as much support and as many different resources as possible until the emotional issue is gone. But the beauty is that once the emotional issue is gone, and tell me if you agree with this, Neil, once the emotional issue is gone, you just feel a shift. You don't crave donuts anymore. You're not exhausted anymore. Did you have that shift along the way?
Yeah, but once you can start getting to those things, it no longer feels like an uphill battle. There may still be work ahead of you, and there are still habits that need to be changed, but it doesn't feel like you're trying to hold that volleyball underwater, like you say. You know what I mean? You don't have to keep your eye on it quite so tight. It just kind of flows, and it just kind of goes a little smoother and a little easier. And the changes, you want to take them instead of having to make yourself take them. You want to go do the next thing. You want to walk that one more block. You want to go get that fresh salad in. You want to do these things, and that's awesome. That's something I searched for my whole life, John, was, God, help me want to do this stuff, because I don't want to. And when you can start addressing those other issues, it turns to a thing where you actually want to do better. Now you start looking, you're reading more articles, you're picking up a new book, you're talking to new people, and you're looking for a new class you can take, and that's awesome. That was a place that I never thought I could get there,
No. I mean, to me, it's like you're shot out of a cannon. You just have this positive momentum that's been released, and you just want to keep going further and further. And I've talked to people as we've done our coaching, and you know this, Neil, because you've been working with us for a while. We've been constantly refining our coaching process to give people more and more tools. But as we've been working with this coaching, what I'm finding is when you get it right, and I think we've got it pretty down now, where it's just really, really right. But when you get it right, people talk to me and they go, I don't know what's wrong with me. I'm just not hungry anymore. They say you should eat you told me to eat every 2 hours or eat a good breakfast. I'm not hungry anymore. And I say, well, if you're not hungry anymore, then the job's done, because that means that the issue's been resolved. Your body doesn't want the weight anymore, and then it becomes automatic. And there is nothing, and you experienced this, and so did I. There's nothing on earth that is better feeling than your body actually wanting to lose weight. There's nothing easier. There's nothing on earth easier, and I mean this. There's nothing easier than losing weight when your body wants to be thin, because you're working with your body.
Right. But that's hard to believe. That's hard to believe until you've experienced it.
Exactly.
Okay, John, are you there?
Hey, Jenny, how you doing?
Yeah, okay. I got a question for you.
Yes, please.
This is from Karen Bender, and she would like to know, how do you release a substantial amount of weight without having the baggy skin and needing plastic surgery?
Okay. All right. That's a good question, and I don't think I've ever done a seminar, webinar, conference call ever where I haven't been asked that question. Yeah. So I am gonna, but the answer is this. The typical way you lose weight, right, is through restrictive dieting or through surgery or through pills, or well, in some way you're assaulting your body, and that's causing a stress response in your body, and that stress response is actually elevating the hormone, the stress hormone cortisol. Cortisol causes your skin to lose its elasticity. So in a sense, when you lose weight by going to war with your body, you're actually getting less and less healthy. You're getting more and more stressed out. And those stress hormones are causing your skin to become baggy. Also, you're doing this lose 100 pounds in 20 days type of thing, and your skin doesn't get a chance to respond ever. So when you lose weight this way, the way we're doing it, in a way where you're constantly adding healthier and healthier habits and foods so that your stress levels are going down, your liver is detoxifying, your body is getting more vibrant, more vitality, and what happens is as your vitality increases, the elasticity in your skin increases also. So losing weight in a gradual way where you're not fighting your body will give you the best results. Now, it's not guaranteed that you won't have any loose skin, but I've had many, many people say they've been struggling to lose weight all their life. They've lost the weight before and gained it back, and when they lost it, they had loose skin. They're losing it now. They're not having loose skin, and that is because you're giving your skin as much elasticity as possible. You're preserving that elasticity. So Neil, I guess it's kind of a personal question, but I know you lost weight in a really good way also. So how did your skin respond when you lost the weight?
You know, it did really well, and I got to tell you that I mean, there is still skin there that just didn't spring back, to be quite frank with you. But I can tell you this as well, and I had stretch marks too. I had these bright red stretch marks when I was bigger, all over my stomach, and when I was large, they were very embarrassing to me. I didn't even want to take my shirt off when I went to the beach or something like that. But I can tell you now, I don't even care. I mean, I just feel so much better with the weight off, and I look so much better, and I feel so much better. If there's a little skin there, I don't. If it used to bother me a 9 on a scale to 10, it bothers me about a 1.5 now. And you know, the way I look at it, you know, I can go get that skin taken off. If I want to get that skin taken off, I can leave it there. If I want to leave it, it doesn't really matter. Just it's almost irrelevant to me now.
I'm actually finding, you know, I had a teeny bit underneath my navel of excess skin. I'm actually finding that little bit's going away more and more over time, which I think is really cool. But Jen, did you have another question for us?
Yes, I do. A good one from Tim Castry. Yeah. He says he's looking to unlock the key to consistency. Yeah. Looking to unlock the key to consistency, which I think is a great question for everybody in many different areas.
Okay. Neil, you want to take a crack at that one?
The key to consistency, is that what you said?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, you know, what I found was that, and consistency is important in anything, whether you're talking about making money, whether you're talking about losing weight, whether you're talking about having an incredible relationship with your kids, which by the way, I have 3 little ones. And what I found in my life is that if you're going to have consistency, that I can tell you what doesn't work. What doesn't work is piling on a million things all at once and then trying to it's like spinning plates, you know what I mean, or juggling 6 balls all at once. How long are you going to be able to do it, especially if you're not used to doing it? They're going to come crashing down, and you're going to be worse off in the end than you were when you started. And this really, I think, really comes back to the adding principle, and it comes back to adding things. I didn't add anything extra until I felt very comfortable with the one thing that I had. And so let's say we're talking about building good relationships with your kids. You know, I would pick one goal, and I've done this with all 3 of my children. I would pick one goal. This is one thing I want to do better with this child right here. I want to be more involved in his Cub Scouts, or I want to, you know, do more cooking with my little 3-year-old girl. I want to teach her how to make cookies, or I want to, you know, I just pick one thing. Get that one thing down to where you have some kind of consistency with that one thing. Maybe we're doing it once a week or once every other week. We have it scheduled. We have a routine. We have something that we're doing. Then add something else when you feel like you've got that thing. Otherwise, you're going to add 7 things and you're going to fail and you're going to feel worse than you did. Now take that same principle and let's take it back and look at your body and let's look at your diet. Isn't that what happens when we diet? We're going to start exercising. We're going to start drinking more water. We're going to start adding more vegetables. You add all of these things onto you all in one day. You know, you go from pigging out on Sunday night, and Monday morning you're going to rock and roll and hit all this stuff and do it all right. And maybe you keep it up for a week, maybe you do for 2, maybe if you've got a lot of willpower you do it for 3 or 4, but eventually it just gets to be too much, and then life comes down on you, which happens, and you have all this external stress that comes down on you, which happens, and we haven't built up properly how to handle the stress, we haven't built up properly how to deal with these things, and everything falls apart. And so that's why I think it's important. You got to move both of those levers. You know what I mean? You have to add these things one at a time and then work on the emotional issues, and add these things one at a time and work on the emotional issues. You build a nice solid foundation and you can move forward from there.
Foundation is the word, Neil. I'm right. I'm just 100% with what you said. You know, to me, a single healthy habit, one single healthy habit, is like a brick in a foundation. And you build this solid foundation, and eventually you've got this empire of healthy habits. So a healthy habit to me is like an asset that pays dividends for life. But if there's an element of discipline that goes into weight loss, in my opinion, it's not fighting cravings. It's not going to war with your body. The element of discipline or willpower that's involved is to create one single healthy habit. And once you've done that, the discipline's done. So let's take your example of waking up every morning and drinking 16 ounces of water. Let's say that that's what you want to do. You do that every single day for 3 or 4 weeks, and you're going to do it forever. It's going to take willpower. It's going to take effort. It's to remember, to focus on it. Whatever it is, for 3 to 4 weeks, then it's a habit for life. And then you can move on to the next thing, doing a visualization first thing in the morning. So systematically, by doing this, you're building like an empire of positive habits. And to me, it's a little bit like, let's say you were a real estate developer. So in order to, and you had this land and you wanted to build something. So it's going to take a lot of effort to get to the place where you buy the land and you design everything. So you get the engineers, you get the architects, you get the mortgage banker, you get the lawyers. Everybody comes together to the table in one day, and then boom, you own it, and then they're building it, and then it's all done, and then you've got this thing that's going to the shopping center or whatever it is, and it's yours, and it's an asset for life. That's, to me, what a habit is. So you do one single habit, but you make that a habit. And once you make that a habit, then you move on to the next thing. It's like building steps. And that's what we did. That's what we've done also in the case study that we were doing, which was the first version of our coaching program, is that we were focusing over a 6-month period of building a couple of habits at a time, and then just keep going and going. And that's just finishing now. And we've got people that are, as you know, Neil, that are about 5 months into that coaching thing, and they're just like, I can't imagine the way my life was before. I can't ever imagine going back. They've got a system in place where they're doing visualization first thing in the morning. They're drinking water. They're eating more salads. They've got more energy. They've got the exercise thing down, and their whole life's changed. And what I like about that is maybe they've lost weight over the last 4 or 5, 6 months, but check in on them 6 months from now, or a year from now, or 2 years or 5 years from now, and you're going to see a totally different person than you would have seen if they hadn't created these healthy habits. So when you build a habit, you build it for life.
That's it.
So that makes a lot of sense. Jenny, did you want to ask another question, or we'll launch into the next topic? Okay, let's launch into the next topic. So you talk a little bit about exercise, happy exercise equals happy results.
Well, well, first of all I did was walk, and in the beginning that's about all I could do, and I enjoy walking. And so, I always encourage people to go after exercises that they enjoy doing, go after activities that they enjoy doing, and walking is just a simple, easy one that we can all add. But I always try to make it a point when I'm exercising, this is a really valuable time when you're exercising to include some other habits. You know what I mean? Whether you're going over different positive statements or affirmations or visualizations, listening to the visualizations, or just envisioning your life as you want it to be. But this is a time to bring about some good thoughts. And what I started realizing, John, when I started doing this, was that every time I would exercise, there's another thing I do. I would make it a point to smile. No matter how hard this was, with the activity I was doing, or grueling it may have seemed at the time, I would smile. And the more I smiled, the easier it became. And so I started smiling and feeling good, and what I was doing is I was creating neuro-associations with exercise that made me feel good. And the exercise already will make you feel good anyway. But I was creating even a stronger bond, so then I would get to where I actually look forward to doing exercising.
I've just got to interrupt you, because I just heard about 300 of the 1,000 people on this webinar, like, I heard their thoughts, as you say, exercise makes you feel good anyway, because as soon as you said that, I heard all these people go, "Oh, it does," but that's something I think we should talk about, and that is that the type of exercise you did makes you feel good. Most type of exercise is just grueling and grinding and painful, and I want to talk about the type of exercise you did in just a second. But Jenny's got lots and lots of questions, so I'm just going to invite her in right now for just to ask a couple more to us, because I want to just touch as many people as we can right now. So, Jen, what do you got for us, hon? Jen, you there? Okay.
Sorry, can you hear me?
Yeah, Jen, I can hear you. Jen, good idea to stay on.
Yeah.
And just because of the transition is just stay on.
I muted myself. Yeah, sorry. Okay, sorry. Marianne van der Took, she's been suffering from depression for a long time, and therefore she finds it hard to visualize. So she was asking if one visualization is better than another, which helps her to focus and then helps begin to lift herself up. And she's enrolled in many of your programs before, but she hasn't lost any weight yet.
Okay, so the thing about visualization, what I always say is, to me visualization is a little bit like the key to visualization is just showing up. So what happens typically, and Neil, this goes along with this kind of consistency thing, is that when people try to do visualization, they're going to try to listen to every word, they're going to really struggle to imagine their ideal body, and then if they don't get it, they're going to get discouraged, they're going to give up. And what I usually tell people is just sit and create the habit of visualizing. So the first thing you want to do is to just create the habit, because you will get better and better at visualizing. And I don't care what visualization you're going to do, it will help with depression because it's going to stabilize your brain chemistry. Now, that being said, there are many visualizations that might be more ideal than others for dealing with depression, such as the safe and protected visualization, and a couple others that we have in the support group and in the coaching programs. But just show up. You know, Woody Allen has this great quote that I love. He says, 99% of success is just showing up. And to me, it's never more true than in visualization. Just show up. And you will get better and better at it, and it'll get deeper and deeper. Your brain will get more effective. Your brain chemistry will stabilize, and you'll find many times that the root causes of the depression will start to go away.
Okay, and this one's slightly related. It's from Marianne, and she says, how do you deal with the part of your psyche that is a saboteur? Personally, I've been on a lot of different diets in the past and finally given up after a year or so. However, there's a part of myself that just digs in and gets quite angry the minute it seems like I'm even thinking about even healthy weight loss. How do you get rid of the saboteur?
Yeah. Now, Neil, I want to ask you that question because I think it relates a lot to what we were talking about before about addressing the emotional issue. Because I personally don't believe in self-sabotage. I don't believe in it at all, because I've been on both sides of the tracks. I was in a situation where I thought I was sabotaging myself, and then I learned that I wasn't sabotaging myself. It's just that I had emotional issues and stress-related issues that were causing my body to want to hold on to weight for protection. But when you address those issues, you're not sabotaging yourself anymore. It just becomes automatic. So to me, the answer, and let me know what you think, to me the answer is addressing the real issues.
Well, yeah, I think it comes back to those two levers again. You know, you've got the emotional one, you've got the physical one, and it disguises itself. You might think it's sabotage because you're doing it to yourself. You know what I mean? And so I guess by definition you could call it that if you wanted to. But what's happening is you haven't moved both levers up in the same pace. You're trying to force the one up. Again, this is all about resistance. You know, it shouldn't be this hard. You shouldn't have to fight this hard to get it done. It's all about finding a way to flow around it. We're getting a lot of questions, John, about our story, and I think this ties right in. We all have a story. Every single one of us. Everybody listening. You do, I do, Jenny does, Aaron does, everybody on this. We all have a story. We have a story that we tell ourselves as to why our life is the way it is. And I would encourage people to become aware of what this story is. You have a story, John. You can tell. I've heard your story. You wrote about it in your book, and you explain to people how you used to be and how you are now. And you tell us what you do now, and the chia seeds and the wraps and how you do all this. It's a wonderful, brilliant, healthy life that you have now. But you had to take steps to get there. And so what I would encourage people to do is to look at your story. You know, and be honest with yourself, because I think self-honesty is key. You have to have that. And what I would encourage people to do is look at the different areas of your life. Look at your family life. Look at your relationships. Look at your health. Look at your financial situation. Whatever it is that's important to you that's not the way you want it, or the areas that are the way you want it, and say, how did you get here? Why is it this way? Why is it that you're this way? And see what naturally flows out of you. Write it down on a sheet of paper. Get out some paper and just start writing. Why am I overweight? Write me a 2-page essay on why I'm overweight, and then you can go back and start dissecting that and look at that, and your answers are going to be in there. And that's the story we need to rewrite. And what can we change in that? And what can we start reframing? What can we start looking at a different way? How can we start rethinking about this? My whole family is overweight. Okay, so your whole family is overweight. Is that working for us? No, obviously it's not. So we have to find a different way. Even though my whole family is overweight, I know that I am empowered to do better.
Yeah.
There's one statement you can replace.
Yeah. No, and you know, for me, Neil, I think writing was a very powerful part of my therapy as I was losing weight, because I mean, everybody knows. So, you know, I guess you can call me a writer now, because I've written one book that's been translated into 16 languages, and another book that just came out, and we're working on a third one. But I never considered myself a writer. You know, I was when I went to university, I was at Penn, and I took courses on everything from anthropology, microbiology, to economics, to photography. My only criteria in taking a class was that I wouldn't have to write a paper. and I ended up having to write 2 papers in the whole time I was there. I hated writing. But when I got to this place where it was all starting to flow out of me, I could not stop writing. I mean, I do this visualization in the morning, and so much emotion would come out of me, so much pain, suffering, stress, whatever it was, and I would write and write and write. And I used to write 50 pages a day, and it just kept growing and growing. And I think something happens when you write, is that you start to kind of like unblock the channels of whatever that story is, because the thing that you're saying about the story is blocking you up in some way. Is really what you're saying, is that there's something in your story. Maybe it's true, maybe it isn't true. You know, maybe that person is a horrible person, maybe they are not a horrible person. But the bottom line is it's blocking you up somehow.
It doesn't matter whether or not the thing is true or not true. The bottom line is you believe it, and that's all that matters. You know, what is true? Right. You know, there's a million different realities out there. The thing is that you're believing it, and it's controlling. You know, they say we have 60,000 thoughts a day, 60,000 different thoughts a day. The trouble is we have the same 60,000 thoughts every single day, and that's what reproduces our life every single day. You want a different life, you're going to have different thoughts. You start with your story, you go back to that story and look at it.
All right, so here's the $1 million question for you, Neil. So we understand our story, we understand what's wrong in our 60,000 thoughts a day, and we want to change 59,000 of them, or even 1,000 of them, or even one of them. How do we do that? How do we change our thinking once we decide that our thinking needs to be changed?
You know, there's several different ways to do it, and I think one of the most powerful ways are the recorded visualizations, because you don't have to. They're passive. You can just put them on and let it go. Yeah. I think that's one of the most powerful ways. You can also write out. You know, you can script out and write out your life as you want it to be. Yeah. You can do vision boards. You know.
Yeah. You got me excited. I just got to say this, because we're doing for the support group this month. The live visualization is going to be a visualization called "I Deserve." And the reason I'm doing this is there was a lady in our latest coaching program, you know, the case study program that's just finishing, that was struggling for 3 months. She didn't lose any weight, and then she's walking down the street and she has this thought, and believe me, Neil, she never, in all of her 60,000 thoughts a day, she never had this thought before. She said, "I deserve a healthy body."
There you go. There it is. That's a changed thought that is going to take her in the direction of transformation. Right there. That's
exactly. Well, it did. She went on to lose weight. She's on fire, and I was inspired by that. So I'm making a visualization where imagine every cell of your body saying at the same time, "I deserve." Just saying it over and over again. I deserve. I deserve. And then let things come. I deserve a healthy body. I deserve to be fit. I deserve a love. I deserve support. I deserve success. I deserve happiness, just over and over again. And if you do that in the morning when you're in a deep state, you know, when you're in this visualization state, you're in a deeply, deeply suggestible state, and that's how you make changes. It's almost like a reprogramming mode where you get in and you just change a thought in a programming mode. So you go in and you have those thoughts: I deserve success, I deserve to be fit, healthy, happy, all of those different things, and man, you change really, really quick. So that's the visualization we're going to be doing in the support group this month. But that to me is a super effective way of changing thoughts. Jen, do you want to chime in again, or should we keep going with Okay, go ahead.
No, I've got another one from Ros Buckman. How do you overcome stresses which I have no control over and are causing me to retain my excess weight?
Okay. Well, there's a story idea for us to talk about. What do you think, Neil?
Well, I mean, I think right there, I mean, just listening to the language, and this is why I say you have to write your story out. Take a page or two, a piece of paper, write it out, and why is it? Now, I can imagine this woman's story. I don't know her, but I can imagine her story. She's got these stresses going on, and these things are causing, these things are causing her to retain the weight. That's what she just said in her question, you know? Right. And then she has no control. And I think that's where you lose it right there. You know, when you're going to frame it as though you have no control, you know, and I'm not suggesting that you can just go in and change everything in your life in one day, but you can reframe how it is that you're thinking about it. And so,
well, go ahead. Yeah, well, there were two things that she said. You know, one is she has no control over it, and the other is it's causing me to gain weight. I mean, those are two story ideas
exactly.
that are very disempowering.
Right, they're disempowering. So how could we rephrase those? Although there are stresses in my life, I am finding that it's easier and easier to control. You know, you just have to figure out a way to rework those thoughts in a way that are more empowering. And then what happens is when you start telling that different story, then you start noticing, like when this woman all of a sudden one day realized that she deserved it.
Right. Right.
That was a moment. That was a brilliant moment. And so when one day, you know, this woman can have when you realize that you do have more control than you think you do. You know, I tell a lot of people, I was coaching this one woman the other day, John, incredible woman, incredibly powerful woman, real strong, real smart, and she had created this life that was just really pretty incredible, and the things she'd done are amazing. And she's just extremely busy. I bet you she works 80 hours a week, if I had to guess. And she's telling me about all these things, and she's saying, "But I just can't seem to get rid of this weight. I don't know why." And she's a doctor. "I can't seem to get rid of this weight. I teach people how to do this, and I can't seem to do it." And I says, "You know, have you considered that your life is just pretty darn busy and stressful?" And she just looked at me like, "No." I said, "But you created this life. This was what you chose. You're not making any time for you. You're not making any time for your family. You're doing an incredible thing, you know, and it's not bad. You know, and that's another thing is I threw out the good and the bads. You know, I threw out the good and the bad foods. I threw out the good and the bad thoughts. There is no good and bad. Let's just see what's going to work for you." Yeah. And those thoughts that this woman's having are not working for her.
Yeah. Well, let's just also look at this question from another angle. So she's saying stresses that you have no control over. So let's just talk about what some of those stresses are, because they're different things. So a perfect example is one person might say a stress they have no control over is a traffic jam, right? You're late for work and there's a traffic jam. You have no control over it. Now, my question is that a stress or isn't it a stress? Because there's two elements to a stress. One is the outside reality of what's happening. So what's the outside reality of what's happening? You're sitting in a car. That's the reality of what's happening. And then there's the inner experience of what's happening. What's the inner experience that's happening? I'm in a traffic jam. I'm going to be late for work. My boss is going to be mad at me. I'm going to lose my job. I won't be able to pay my mortgage. I'm going to be out on the street. My kid won't go to school. That's the inner experience that's happening. So the stress that she has no control over is the traffic jam. But what about what's going on inside your head? Because I've been on both sides of this fence. I've had a head that would go crazy in a traffic jam, and now I have a head that's not going crazy in a traffic jam. So what do we have control over? We do have control over what's going on in our head.
You have control over your response, and that's the moment you realize you do have control over your response. See, this is an it all comes down to empowerment in the end. The idea is not how to stop. The idea is not how to stop the traffic jam. The idea is how to control your response to the traffic jam.
or how to, or not even control. To me, control is too active a word.
Manage.
I would rather say change, alter.
Right.
So when you do these visualizations, for example, you simply, your feelings alter. So I'm in this traffic jam and I'm thinking, well, I'm still safe. I'm still protected. Life's still going to flow. I'm guided. I'm living the life I'm meant to be living. Everything's going to work out in some way. I know it will. Maybe it doesn't make sense right now. Maybe my boss will be mad at me, whatever it is, whatever the thing is. Maybe I'm going to be 5 minutes late. But you know what? I'm going to be exactly where I need to be because I'm living exactly the life I'm meant to be living. And that's not control. That's just a repositioning of what's going on in between your ears through the visualization work that we do.
Two people side by side in the same situation, and they're both choosing to have a different response.
Right.
But they both have control.
Right. So the answer is you don't have to. The issue is stresses you have no control over. The issue is what you do have control over, which is the work that you can do to make your mind and your body feel less stressful and change the hormonal experience that you're experiencing. So, Jenny, do you want to chime in again?
Yes. Yep,
Okay.
got another one on the similar lines. She says, how do I get rid of the guilt feeling when you eat something unhealthy or overeat? I feel stressed out whenever I start eating. How can I change this? And this is from Ellen Rotine.
Okay. Neil, you want to address that?
Guilt feeling.
You there, John?
Yeah.
I was
so she's asking about guilt.
I was reading these questions that were coming in.
Yeah. Okay. So, so Jenny was asking about guilt. Yeah, we're getting questions by the ton, so it's tough to keep up. And Neil, you're probably better off letting Jenny cipher through them all because there's no way to keep up. But she's asking about guilt. Okay. She eats something bad, she feels guilty. It creates this kind of negative spiral. What you and I both lived through that. What were some of the tools that you work with?
Well, I'll tell you, John. I mean, I threw that one out the window real early because for me, I didn't deprive myself of anything, which was different than anything I'd ever tried in the past. So I mean, I let myself eat anything I want. I let myself drink anything I want. I didn't focus on that. And I you know, one thing that I wrote about in my book is forgiveness, the power of forgiveness. And I tell you, one of the most powerful things is not just to forgive other people in your life who you feel have maybe wronged you or didn't treat you perfectly, but learning to forgive yourself, you know. That's important. And so I didn't really have to deal with any of that. I just let it go. I took a different approach this time. I just you feel bad about something. You know what? If you feel bad about something that you ate and you want to do something about it, go eat an apple. Go have some celery. Go add something good. Go drink a glass of water. That'll make you feel better. And let it go.
I love the similarities in the experiences that we had in losing weight because when I finally got it right, I didn't have good days or bad days either. Like in the beginning, I still craved chocolate. So I used to have these chocolate almonds in the fridge. And when I wondered when I'd have one, so I never had good days and bad days anymore. See, when you have the diet mentality, which you and I both lived through for years, every day is a battle, right? And it's going to be a good day or a bad day. And you wake up in the morning, and every day you wake up in the morning starts out as a good day. And you're determined. But then around 11 o'clock, your blood sugar tanks, and you want to have a donut, and maybe you fight it, maybe you don't. So let's say you fight it, and then it's 4 o'clock, and that same thing happens, and then you're driving home, and you're stressed out. You figure, screw it. You do a drive-through, and then that's it. The whole day's messed up, and then you have this huge binge, and it just keeps going and going and going and going, and then you start again. And that's the way most people live their lives. They're trying to lose weight. It's a daily battle of good days and bad days. And so here I am, and you had the same thing. I was over 400 pounds, and I'm not having good days and bad days anymore. I'm just focusing on adding as many healthy habits as possible, forgiving myself, accepting myself, loving myself, and nourishing myself with healthy food and healthy thoughts. And if the odd chocolate comes in, I don't think twice about it. You see, there's chemicals in, chemicals out. So if you can create that mentality, there's no cause for guilt, and there's no need to have it spiral into anything more than it was.
Well, and guilt is the byproduct of the resistance, because there again you're trying to fight something, and I never really tried to fight it here. And this is the key difference. John, you know my personal situation pretty well. I just went through the most stressful 2 years of my life, way more stressful than anything that I just told you guys
That's
about.
True.
And
That's
my
true.
weight maintained, and my stress level maintained, and everything just maintained. Actually, I got healthier. You know, my vitals got better. Everything got better. And this was hard, man.
Yeah, it's true. I need to just chime in on that, Neil, and just validate that because, you know, as I said, I've known Neil for several years now. And, yeah, Neil went through a couple of years that would crush most people, would have crushed me. And he navigated through it and got healthier and healthier. And that's a perfect example of the difference between an outside stress and an internal response to stress. So to me, you're very much a walking testimony of what you teach and this principle of changing your internal response.
And I got to tell you, John, some days it felt like I was in a ship that I had no steering wheel to, and it was just getting tossed and turned about. But you know what? My reaction to it at the end of the day was just take a deep breath. Okay, you know, all we can do is do our best. You know, that's all we can do.
You know, that deep breath thing, it reminds me, I was just watching this kind of like, I always like to watch these silly kung fu movies. I was watching a movie with Jackie Chan and Jet Li. I don't remember what it was called, something about a dragon gator, I don't know what, but it was kind of like a comedy, but also had a serious tone. And there was a kid in there, you know, and he was learning to fight because he had the whole world against him. And he's like, well, what if I can't do it? What if I can't do this? What if I can't? What if, you know, what, and then Jet Li just looks at him and says, well, don't forget to breathe.
That's right.
I thought that was perfect. I said, look, that's what you need to do. You need to breathe. I mean, let's face it. That's what you need to do. You need to breathe. You need to drink water. You need to.
There's only a handful of things you have to do in this world, John.
And one of them is breathe. And
one of them is breathing.
That's really what it comes down to. Okay, so let's. I'm enjoying these questions. So Jan, if you want to keep going, we'll take a couple more before we.
I was going to say, Neil, and the other one apart from breathing is to drink water, and that's what this person has asked, and a lot of people ask this, you know, how much water should you add to help lose weight or release weight? But I think, you know, people need to know about how much water to drink.
Neil, you got Jenny talking the lingo now.
I got one, there you go.
You converted my personal assistant.
That's success.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know what you recommend to people, John, but like I said, I tell people hit that 16 ounces when you first wake up. And then here's just a really helpful tip. I tell this to all of my clients. I have a 32-ounce water bottle. It's a wide mouth Nalgene BPA-free water bottle. I fill that thing up once in the morning. I try to finish it by noon. I fill it up again at noon. I try to finish it by the time I get home. Just with that, I'm getting 64 ounces. How many milliliters? About 2,000 milliliters.
I don't know. I can't do the conversion, but that sounds about right.
Yeah, and I know I'm getting that as a base. Am I saying that's all you need? I'm saying that's a great base. That beats the heck out of what I was doing before, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, I say with water, you push the envelope a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
That's really what it comes down to, and you just do kind of like a cause and effect type of thing. So there might be days when I will drink. I'll start with 4 glasses of water, and then I'll just kind of keep going, and it might be 10, 20 glasses by the end of the day, but not every day.
Depends what you're doing, too. I mean, if you're exercising a lot, if it's hot out, I mean, a lot of things can alter it.
Some people say that you're supposed to have, let me see, what was it? It was and it's kind of, you got to do this kind of conversion thing, but it's an ounce of water for every kilo of body weight, I think is what it came down to, something like that. I don't know. I don't remember the conversion, but I say keep yourself really, really well hydrated. Try to drink at least a glass of water every hour. Try that as a rule of thumb.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. Jen, ask us one. Go ahead.
Yeah. How do I? I lost it. Sorry. Marnie Bates. How do I do emotional release?
How do you do emotional release? So in emotional release, there's a specific work that we do within our new coaching program, the Ultimate Coaching Experience, where we do emotional release work with certain professionals, psychologists and neurolinguistic programmers, and also with a specific type of therapy that we worked on with a group in Denver that's called emotional release therapy. So this type of work is done with professionals, and there's a couple of different ways that you can do it. If you want to send us an email, we'll give you different links. But in general, you do need to have specific experts work with you.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Hang in there, Jen. Let's just keep going a little bit. We were talking about exercise. You know, Neil, I still want to understand what happy exercise is, because I know that where we left off, we had about 350 people out of our 1,000 people on the webinar just roll their eyes when you said exercise. So I'm wondering if you can tell me what happy exercise means exactly.
Well, I mean, it just means that I stopped associating exercise with something that was negative. I stopped associating it with something that I had to do. I stopped associating, and if it feels like, and this is true with anything in my life to this day, John, if I feel like this is something that I have to do, that I don't want to do it, I just won't do it.
Yeah.
I just won't do it.
Yeah.
I'll say, not now. I'll wait till I feel good about it, and then I'll do it. And you know what? When I feel good about that thing and do it, it comes out 10 times better. And so...
yeah.
Go ahead.
Go ahead. Well, you know, with my own experience with exercise, is that I find that people always try to push more and more and more. But what we're finding in our research, and also theoretically speaking, and we talk a lot about this, is in many cases less is more. You want to do intensity a couple of times a week, and you talk about this. You talk about just exercising 10 minutes 3 times a week, which I think is perfect.
Oh, yeah.
But if you do it the right way. Yeah, if you do it the right way, I think it's perfect because if you do it too much, what happens is you get hungry, you elevate your cortisol levels once again, so this exercise becomes a chronic stress which causes you to gain weight. So exercise is a part of the solution, but it's not the solution, and in many cases you're exercising too much is really the root cause of the problem.
Well, let me break down a myth that I believe exists that's really steering a lot of people wrong out here, and you can tell me if you agree with me or not.
Okay, and before you do, Neil, I just want to say to Jenny, stay on because after Neil makes this point, I just want to bring you on with a couple more questions. So stay right there. Go ahead, Neil.
Okay, so a lot of people are looking at exercise as a calorie thing. And if you look at exercise as a calorie thing, you might as well just go find the closest brick wall and smash your head against it over and over and over again because it doesn't work. You're going to go work out for 45 minutes. You're going to sweat. You're going to work your butt off, and you're going to look at the little thing on the treadmill that just says you burn 341 calories. And you realize that if you go and just open up one bag of Doritos and eat 3/4 of that little bag, you just took in more than that. And so what was
you're finished?
Yeah, you're done.
Exactly.
And I would. And here's another thing: you exercise for 45 minutes or an hour, and guess what happens? Here's a little dirty secret nobody wants to talk about. You're hungrier. You're hungrier. So now I'm hungrier, and if I eat, how are you going to feel? Then you're going to feel guilty, right? Throw all that out the window. Let me give you a different way.
And then you've done this hour's worth of exercise. You've burned 300 calories. You've eaten 800 or 2,000 calories. And you're exhausted and you can't go anymore. And what are you going to do? Exercise another 4 hours? I mean, like, where do you go from there?
This is, again, you're into resistance. You see the difference? This is my difference between release and losing. You're into resistance. You're into a fight. You're into something that you're not going to win. So let me tell you how I think about it. Exercise, to me, I tell people, look, forget about the calories. Put a little piece of tape over how many calories was burnt on that machine. I don't care how many calories was burnt. The machine's wrong anyway. It can't possibly know how many calories you burned.
Yeah, whoever invented that was just like a sadist, in my opinion.
It was a
designed
scientist.
to punish people.
It was a left-brain scientist who thought this would be a good idea. He was probably never overweight a day in his life. But anyway, when I tell people about exercise is great, though. You don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater. Exercise is awesome. I'll tell you, for me, what the #1 benefit of exercise has been as a stress release. And as such, you could just 10 minutes of some brisk exercise, walking or whatever, just 10 minutes of it is going to have incredible benefits for you. Why? Because it's going to release that stress. And now what we're finding is that it's actually releasing the cortisol, which is what's actually, it's burning it up. You know what I mean? The cortisol, so because your body has built that up because it thinks it needs it, going back to old fight or flight mentality. And just 10 minutes of exercise is going to release that stuff.
Well, let's talk. So this comes back to this happy exercise thing. So if you're exercising in an easy, relaxed way with 10-second periodic intensity is something we talk about, and I know in the coaching program you talk a lot about it, and we just came up with a GM fitness video that we're going to release next month, which talks about it. But the point is, if you're doing it in a relaxed, easy, enjoyable way, and not too much, you are reducing stress. And as we all know, it's the stress hormones that cause you to gain weight in most instances. But, and this is a big but, if you push yourself and exercise too much and make it too often and too chronic, it actually increases your overall stress load. It becomes chronic stress. You will gain weight. It's very documented. It's called overtraining. It elevates your cortisol levels, causes you to gain weight. So this happy thing that you're saying is exactly right. Happy exercise means that doing it in a low-stress way, enjoyable way, will get you benefits. Doing it in a stressful, unenjoyable way, you're just adding more fuel to the stress fire.
And look, I mean, exercise is very, very important. Don't get me wrong, but you know, it's just a piece of it's just a component. It's one piece of the puzzle. It is not the entire puzzle. It's one piece of the puzzle. Yeah. It's way more important to get your head right. Way more important to get your head right than to get your exercise program right. What's important is just get out there and get moving. Let's do something, anything. Let's just get out there and get moving, and let's work on this other stuff. And you start working on your mind, you start working on your heart, you start working on your visualizations, you start working on your story, you start working on your, you know, you work on all that stuff, and all of a sudden you'll find yourself wanting to do more exercise, and then you'll learn better techniques and things like that. So I just don't think it's something that needs a whole lot of emphasis, really.
Yeah. I agree. I think it's a very small piece of the puzzle. But what we usually do, what we did in our last coaching program, is that we introduced exercise in the third month, because first thing I want to do, and I remember doing an interview with Dr. Howard Leibowitz of the Leibowitz Longevity Center in California, and I love this guy. He is just so brilliant in his integrative approach to health and weight loss. But I remember talking about this concept of not introducing exercise right away, but dealing with stress first. And he said to me, John, that's perfect, that's brilliant, that makes perfect sense, because in the beginning you already have too much of a stress load. And so you want to address all these other issues. You want to nourish your body better, detoxify your body better, deal with digestion so that your immune system improves, and deal with the stresses and emotional issues so that your overall stress load decreases. Then you can start using exercise the right way. So we did it this way in this last coaching program, where we started in month 3, and man, it really, really worked, because they took a break, they dealt with the real issues, exactly what you're saying, and then they were ready to really hit it, and they got tremendous results. So to me, that's a perfect way to segue that in. So Jenny, let me get you back in, hon, if you don't mind. We'll ask a couple more questions before we wrap up.
Sure. This one is from Lisa Deng. She says, I've been doing the visualizations and the Gabriel methods, and it's been struggling with visualization, but I feel awesome and I believe it, and then later I look in the mirror and feel like a fraud. How do I deal with the visualized reality and my real current reality?
Right. So again, with visualization, the thing you want to do is just keep practicing on a daily basis, and what'll happen is that'll all come together. In other words, your reality and your life will coincide, but it does take some time. And if you practice it every day, what you find is more and more they start to align. Do you agree with that, Neil?
Yeah, it takes time. I mean, it just takes time, and you have to, you know, again, it comes back down to this resistance. It comes back down to this fighting. It comes back down to this, I'm not good enough, I feel guilty. You know, you got to just kind of just let that stuff go. And you know, you may not love every single thing about what you see in that mirror, but you know, find something you do love, you know, and focus on that. Find something that is going good and focus on that. You know, let's put the focus where we have some power. Let's put the focus where we feel good. You know, here's one thing that I teach people. I do life coaching as well, and one of the things that I teach people is that the most important thing that you can ever do, and I hold to this to the day I die, the most important thing that you can ever do is figure out some kind of way to feel good. Right in this moment. Figure out some kind of way to feel good. Because when you start beating yourself up and you start getting into this guilt and you start getting into this, you're going down a slippery slope, and you don't want to end up at the bottom of that. So when we find ourselves, the key is becoming aware of when we're starting to slip. And when we find ourselves starting to slip down the slope, let's be aware now. Let's take a look around. What can we find that's a more positive thing to put our focus on? Where is our power? What's going to lead us back to something that's a more desired result? You know, if it means don't look in the mirror, then don't look in the mirror, you know, and do what you got to do.
Or don't weigh yourself. That's what I always tell people.
Exactly. Looking in the mirror and weighing yourself, I mean, it can be synonymous for people.
But I just want to say that, you know, Neil, I very, very much appreciate your time. Now, Neil is one of our Gabriel Method coaches, and the webinars that you're going to be seeing are all of our Gabriel Method coaches. And if you want to learn a little bit about this ultimate coaching program, the only thing I want to say about it is we were only looking for 60 people. It's by application only, and before the webinar even launched, we already have 60 applicants. So if you want to learn more, you can go to Gabriel Method thegabrielmethod.com or thegabrielmethod.com/ultimate for ultimate coaching. And basically the way the coaching works is you've got weekly calls with people like Neil. Neil is going to be like a coach mentor, and then you're going to have other experts, nutritionists, psychologists. Neil will refer you out to whoever it is that you need to focus on at any given time. He'll architect your experience over a 3 to 6 month period, depending on how you want to do it. You'll also be able to talk to me anytime you want during my office hours 4 times a week. And this is why I'm going to be pretty booked up right now, is that you can just pick up the phone and talk to me along the way anytime you have a question. And it's basically our most comprehensive package we've ever launched. As I said, we already had got 60 applicants, but if you are interested in learning more, click on the link or go to thegabrielmethod.com/ultimate just to learn a little bit more. And any questions you have, you can send us an email or you can fill out an application, and we can get to, we'll have someone contact you and see when we can fit you in.